Hi, it's Craig from Scratch at 50 and welcome to the first Golf Week That Was podcast. So this is a live podcast. I do all of my podcasts live. The whole idea is that you can get involved in the comments. You can shape what happens with the show. This is an interactive podcast. It's not a reactive one where you watch a recorded one and you might, put some comments down. This is done live so you can get involved. And this is going to be the regular podcast. We're going to be every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock where we're going to look back on the last 7 days in golf. And that will be all aspects of golf. So today we're going to look at the at&t and the Pro World, the Ras Al Khaimah on the DP World Tour, the Saudi International. We're also going to talk about Greg Norman. He's had something to say this week. Also Bryson DeChambeau. There's a couple of things on him. The Swilcan Bridge at St Andrews, that's been a big talking point. PXG have launched a new golf ball, which I think looks really interesting. And also today, and the good thing about doing this live is that we can react very quickly. Today, Live Golf have launched their team names, which is always a bit of a cringe-worthy experience, but we'll also get stuck into that as well. But I'm always going to start with what my golf week has been, and the weather here in the UK has been extremely cold, extremely miserable, not much fun on the golf course. I did play on Sunday, but it was freezing cold. We were on temporary greens. In case anyone out in the US don't know what a temporary green is, because you always have nice weather. Basically, because the ground is frozen, the pin is just put in a hole on the fairway in front of the green, so it's not particularly enticing and doesn't get the golf juices going. But it was nice to get out there and hit some shots. I've hardly played in the last 3 weeks because of work commitments and stuff. So, but one thing I did do is that I shot a video this week with Alex Elliott Golf, who's got one of the biggest PGA teaching channels on YouTube. It is my first sort of collaboration, which was great. And it was all about golf flexibility exercises. Now, it was supposed to be just one video. We got a load of great content. And there's going to be 3 videos coming with lots of great tips on golf flexibility exercises. Exercises that you can do at home that are going to exercise and get you flexible in the right muscles for your golf swing. So that's going to be great. I was really pleased with the way that went. And I think a lot of people out there, I mean, I was shocked at how bad my flexibility was. I mean, it was shocking. It was so bad. I think I start off the video by saying I've got the flexibility of a plank of wood, and it's not far off the truth. So that's me. That's everything I've got coming. So let's get stuck into the first subject, which is the at&t. Now, I did watch a bit of this. And I think, this year's a Ryder Cup year, so there's going to be a lot of talk about the Ryder Cup coming up. And because Europe got absolutely flipping turned over in the last Ryder Cup, and the US look like they've got such a strong young team for a long time to come. And also Europe, because of Liv, has lost almost all of its experienced players. So for Luke Donald, he needs 2 things to happen to try and give the US team a bit of a match this time around. One is he needs what experienced players he's got left and is available. Of course, we don't know whether Liv golfers are going to be available for the Ryder Cup or not, but I think that's unlikely, to put it mildly. So I'm sure that the biggest smile about Justin Rose winning the at&t was probably coming from Luke Donald, because he needs Justin Rose, an experienced Ryder Cup player, to be back to full form and playing really well. Now, I don't know whether you watched it or not, but this is a tournament that I grew up watching. This was for me, it's one of the most iconic tournaments on the US calendar. And, there's always a lot of celebrities that take part. In the past, it was always sort of Bill Murray used to get a lot of attention when he was playing. But the field used to be extremely strong. And like this year, I just thought the field was really weak. I mean, the only players that I could really think of any notoriety was Hovland, Fitzpatrick, and Spieth, and none of them played particularly well, and none of them were really in the shake-up. I know Rose is a big player, but he's been off form for a long time, and I can only put it down to the fact that there's these elevated events now, where all the best players are going to play in these elevated events, and the first one's coming up this week at the Waste Management. So obviously they've all signed up for that, and it meant that the at&t at Pebble Beach, a great tournament. Justin Rose spoke about what a great iconic tournament it was to win. And, it just seemed like there wasn't many top players playing in it, which is just like a real shame. I mean, what do you think about the way the PGA Tour's gone? Do you think it's just become a 20 tournament tour now with the 4 majors, these 20 elevated events, and the rest of the events that they have will just have a load of, little known players and there won't be much interest? Is it the right way to go for the PGA Tour? I don't know, but I think, the Honda Classic's another one that's coming up soon on the Florida Swing. Again, that's a really iconic event, but it's not an elevated event. And, Honda have pulled out their sponsorship. I've got it written down here. They've sponsored that tournament for 42 years. And obviously, they've just thought that they're not going to get any value out of it because none of the top players are going to play in that tournament. They're just going to play in these elevated tournaments. So I think it's a shame in many ways. I can understand why the PGA Tour have done it, in response to LIV. And it was led by the players in that meeting in Delaware. But I think, I just think I'm a bit worried about the way it's going. I just think that you're going to end up really with a sort of a LIV tour within the PGA Tour, but with 72 holes and a cut, where you're just going to have these very high money tournaments that are going to get a lot of attention for 20 weeks, and the rest of the year no one's really going to care about, apart from the majors and the Ryder Cup, obviously. The only other thing I want to speak about really on the at&t was I absolutely love Peter Malnati. Never really seen him play that much, but I just loved his attitude. He was absolutely fantastic. He was in there with a chance to win. He sort of fell away on the last day, but he just seemed to be the sort of guy who's he just decides he's going to go out there and enjoy his golf. And come rain, shine, hail, whatever they threw at him, whether he's playing great shots or bad shots, he seemed to just keep a great attitude. And I think, that's something that should always be commended, because golf's a tough sport, especially when you're earning a living out of it. It can beat you down pretty bad. But yeah, Peter Malnati, just an incredible attitude and, just staying upbeat all the time. And I believe from doing a bit of research, he's like that all the time. And he's not the most talented pro golfer in the world. I think he knows that. I think he's ranked somewhere like 200 in the world or something. But I just noticed him and really liked his attitude and the way that he played. So the other thing was, of course, there was a lot of attention over here. I'm not sure whether there was over in the US or not, but Gareth Bale, the ex-Real Madrid and Welsh footballer, and has always been an extremely keen golfer. He's just retired, so he's played in the as an amateur for the first time, and he's clearly got a lot of talent for playing golf. But I think on Sky Sports they were kind of running a sort of story that he's going to have a run at having a pro career at golf now that he's retired at football. And I think we just need to rein that in a little bit. I personally think he's got a hell of a lot of natural talent, and he's obviously a very good low handicap golfer. Apparently he plays off 2. I've no doubt that he'll be able to get to scratch, but there's a big difference from where he is now to saying that he's going to have a pro golfing career. And I'm not sure whether that was coming from him or it was just the media that was sort of really playing that up. Get in the comments, what do you think? What do you think, Gareth Bale, what's his maximum potential as a golfer? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that he could make it as a professional golfer? So that kind of wraps up the at&t. I suppose just having a summary on that. Great win for Justin Rose. Fantastic win for Luke Donald. He will be so delighted if he can have an informed Justin Rose in his Ryder Cup team. While we're on the Ryder Cup, do you think that Europe can give the US a run for their money in this upcoming Ryder Cup, or is it just going to be another trouncing? He needs a lot of his younger players to sort of step up as well, which we're going to kind of get into now as we look at the Ras Al Khaimah, which was on the DP World Tour. So again, the week before was quite a sort of a big iconic event. Rory was playing, obviously Patrick Reed was playing. There was a lot of hullabaloo about what went on there. But, the field was really strong, and obviously all those players have now gone off to have a week off before they start the elevated events on the PGA Tour. So it did feel like it was just, quite a weak field. No real well-known players in it at all. But, this does give the younger players a chance to come through and show Luke Donald that they can make the grade, that they can, rightfully earn their place and give a good account of themselves in the Ryder Cup. So Daniel Gavins won. Now, I don't know whether any of you saw it, but he was on the 18th tee. He had a 3-shot lead, and it's a par 5 to finish. A quite, an easy 3-shotter really. But there's water all the way down the right-hand side. I don't know what his caddy was doing here, because for me, his caddy should have been saying, look, we've got a 3-shot lead. Just hit an iron down the left, hit another iron down. Let's get it on the green and then just 2-putt and get out of here with our 3-shot win. He pulls out driver and just hits a push block fade in the water off the tee, which was just like the one thing that he just couldn't do. And then pipes it, to be fair to him, he's 3 off the tee, pipes it straight down the middle. So he's there now, lying 3 off the tee, playing his 4th in the middle of the fairway. So all he needs to do here really is just hit his 4th down, put it on for 5, 2-putt for a double bogey, and he's still winning by a shot. Again, he pulls out 3-wood, going for the green. I'm just like, what are you doing? What is... for me, his caddy should have been stepping in there and really taking control of it. He's a young lad. He's probably just obviously full of confidence. But then with his 3-wood, it's another sort of push. I wouldn't say it was a big fade this time, but he just sort of blocked it and faded it a little bit and put it in the water again. And he is staring down the barrel of this one could have left a lot of scar tissue for sure. He gets down there, he takes a drop, so he's now dropping 5, hitting 6, so he's got to get up and down to win the tournament. He plays a really bang average pitch shot onto the green from about 40 yards, leaves it 30 foot away from the hole, and then stone me, he absolutely tramlines it in from 30 feet. I think I've got a picture of him here with the trophy, which is great. No, that's not the right one, just bear with me here. So there we go. There he is, all smiles now. But wow, he nearly threw that away. And you know what? If he had gone into a playoff and lost, that's the sort of thing that just ruins your career. That's kind of scar tissue. Sometimes never goes away. So I was delighted for him that he actually, hold the putt and didn't have to go through that horrible process of just throwing it away in front of the golfing world's cameras. But for me, his caddy should have been taking a lot more control in that situation. My brother's a professional caddy. He caddies for some pros on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he caddies at Merion, during the season as well. And, he said for sure that he would never have let him hit driver off the tee, and certainly wouldn't have been letting him hit 3-wood for his second. Of course, what we don't know is maybe the caddy did say this and he totally ignored him, but... even still, I think the caddy's got to insist. The caddy's just got to give him a club and say, no, you're hitting that, and just, it was, he had 7 shots on a par 5 to win and barely scraped through. So very lucky there. So back to the Ryder Cup, and, Europe now need, because we've lost all these experienced players, your Garcias, your Poulters, your Westwoods, your Stensons, your, what's the Irish guy called? His name escapes me. Graham McDowell, they're all probably not going to be available. So, we need some of these young players to really come through now. And there's 2 players that I saw probably about 2 years ago and thought, these 2 lads are going to be absolute world beaters. And they're the Højgaard twins from Denmark. These lads absolutely stripe it. They hit it a country mile. They've got great golf swings, great technique. They have won. I'm pretty sure they've both won on the European Tour before. But they have had a lot of chances to win tournaments, and they just don't seem to be able to just make that final step. They both shot one over on the last day to finish tied 6th and tied 13th, which was a bit disappointing, really. I think those 2 lads could, really step up on the world stage. I do think they are that good. Just have a quick look at some comments. So, yeah, Chad, good to see you again. Rose is such a humble guy with a very classic game. Great win for him. It was great to see. Yeah, it was. It really was. You don't want players like that. He's been suffering with his back. I'm actually very lucky. One of my closest friends is Phil Kenyon, the world-renowned putting coach. Me and Phil played golf together when we were young, and when we were travelling around in our sort of late teens, early 20s, thinking that we were going to make a living out of playing golf and playing big amateur tournaments all over the country. Me and Phil used to travel together all the time. And Phil, he's been the putting coach for Justin Rose for a long time. And I do remember probably about 6 months ago him mentioning that it was really bad, and he was wondering whether he was ever going to, be able to play golf at any real good standard, because, his back was that bad. But obviously he's recovered, and as you say, it is great to see him back. So the Højgaard twins at Ras Al Khaimah, I think that was a bit disappointing. I think those two lads could, be a real asset for the European team at the Ryder Cup. Adrian Meronk, he finished tied fourth. He won the Australian PGA this year. He's a multiple winner now. He's got a bit of a quirky swing and a bit of a quirky pre-shot routine where he actually completes his whole backswing as a pre-shot routine and then comes back to the address position. Never seen that before, and it does look a bit quirky, but it definitely works for him. And I think that he's going to be, he must be right up there in the Ryder Cup standings already, because he won the Australian PGA, which is on the DP World Tour, and he's had a tied fourth, and I know he's had some other good finishes as well. So Adrian Meronk's going to be up there, and he shot -7 on the last day, which is a fantastic score. If the Højgaard twins had shot that, then they would have won the tournament. And the other one I noticed was Victor Perez. I really think Victor Perez is a top golfer. He won the Dubai event the week before. Some would say a little bit fortunately when he spun that bunker shot back in the hole, but, still a great shot. He had another solid finish, tied 13, shot -4 on the last day. So I think Perez, Meronk are, strong candidates for the European Ryder Cup team. And, hopefully with Rose, we need players like Danny Willett to get back to form as well. Just so we can try and get a good blend of youth and experience in the European team. So that's it for Ras Al Khaimah. Well done, Daniel Gavins. You nearly completely ballsed it up. I was going to say something else. But, a win's a win. I suppose it doesn't matter how you do it. No one's going to remember in 2 or 3 years' time. They'll just see his name on the trophy. So congratulations to him. It's his second win on the DP World Tour as well. So, hopefully he can continue to progress and, win more tournaments. So now on to the Saudi International. So I can't really comment too much on this because it wasn't on TV over here. So I couldn't watch any of it at all. It's obviously an event that's funded by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, which is the same people that fund the Live Golf Tour. And Abraham Answer won, who is, I think he's still, even though he's not been earning any world ranking points, he's still ranked like in the mid-30s in the world rankings. He's a really, really good player, a really natural player. You don't feel with him that there's a lot of technical thoughts going on. He's very, his own kind of style, with his own sort of swing, but a really, really good golfer, and obviously a really good win for him. So, yeah, but unfortunately couldn't watch it, which was a bit of a shame. I think the one thing that I did want to talk about was one of the players that asked the PGA Tour for a release came second, which is Cameron Young. And Mito Pereira, who I think we already know is going to live for sure. We're just waiting for it to be announced. He had a good finish as well. He was tied 6th. So, Cameron Young, he's been rumoured. There's been a lot of rumours about him going to live for a long time. The fact that he's asked for a release to go to this tournament, he's finished tied 2nd. I think we'd be pretty naive to think that while he was over there, he didn't have, the Live Golf guys whispering in his ear and trying to get him to come across to the Live Tour. I mean, it might already be in the bag, we don't know, or he might be not going at all. There's been zero kind of rumours, really, apart from Mito Pereira on the Live Tour. But I just think it's interesting that he did ask for the release to go over there. I'm sure the PGA Tour didn't want to give those releases, but because they've got this antitrust case coming up, they had to let them go. Otherwise, they would have just been putting, one of the nails in the coffin for the case for them on that. So, Cameron Young, what do you think? Do you think he's going to live? Or do you think he just went over there to, try and pick up a big paycheck? Because the purse in that tournament was absolutely huge, as they always are when they're funded by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. The other one as well is that I noticed when I looked down the list was there's a young lad, there's a young Thai golfer. I don't know whether you've noticed him much. You would have had to have probably watched a little bit of Live Golf to see this lad play. But he had a glittering amateur career. He's still only 24 years old. I'm going to try and say his name. I'm pretty sure I can get it right. Saddam Kaikanjana. And he came tied fourth, -14, and shot 3 rounds of 66, which was a really good showing by him. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's a good young player. It looks like that, he's tied into Live, so, what opportunities are going to be open to him moving forward, as in playing in majors and stuff, is obviously all up in the air at the moment. But I just thought that was a great result for a young player from Thailand to finish tied fourth and shoot 3 rounds of 66. That's pretty good. Pretty good. In the comments, Cameron Young may have just been kicking the tyres. Yeah, true. We don't know, do we? Really? I just think it's not a coincidence that he asked for a release to go over there. That if you look at who went over there last year to play in that tournament, it was obviously before Live even existed, and there was no kind of problem really. But there was a lot of them went over there. Tommy Fleetwood played in it. I mean, I should have got a list of it, I suppose. But, there was a long list of people who asked for a release for that tournament. And this year there was hardly any at all. Yet Cameron Young was one of them. I just don't think it's a coincidence. It wouldn't surprise me if he does sign for Live. The other thing as well is there was quite some notables who missed the cut. So Cameron Smith, Phil Mickelson, Bubba Watson and Bryson DeChambeau all missed the cut. So, I think that there's a big off-season with Live Golf now, isn't there? Those guys haven't played any competitive golf since the end of August. Some of them have played in some, events in between and stuff. But I can't remember Cameron Smith, for example. I don't think he's played a competitive event since he played in the Australian Open, which was in October time. And he loved the fact that he could go back to Australia, and he's a dead keen fisherman and going to do some fishing. He's obviously enjoyed his off-season. But does that mean that, a lot of these guys were turning up at this event and they were really rusty because, they all shot some pretty bad scores. And, if we get on to Bryson, not only did he miss the cut, but the big story was that he was using a TaylorMade stealth driver, and Cobra Golf have ended their relationship with Bryson. So I think this is really interesting because Cobra were building their brand around him. If you look at the players that they've got as sort of staff players, he was by far their standout with Ricky Fowler. Now, Ricky looks like he's coming back. He's definitely showing signs that he's coming back, but he's been going through a tough time, with his swing changes. He's been not getting any results for a long time, but still a great player for Cobra to have. But, if you think about all of Cobra's kind of media for the last 2 years, it's all been Bryson DeChambeau. And also he's brought in a lot of these long drive guys like Kyle Berkshire, and they've become Cobra players and been a big part of it as well. So it just shows you that, also Dustin Johnson, Matthew Wolff, Sergio Garcia have ended with TaylorMade. This is definitely because they've signed with Live Golf. There's, that's definitely part of it. Now, there's another thing to this. When I did a little bit of research today, there is another thing as well that might be part of this, is that all the live golfers are all ending their clothing contracts. All of them are. And Bryson had a Cobra Puma contract. So he was not only contracted to use Cobra clubs, but he was also contracted to wear Puma clothing. The reason that all of the live golfers are ending their clothing contracts, you might have noticed Ian Poulter recently played in some of his old, IJP, his own branded stuff that he hasn't worn for a long time, is because they're all wearing branded team uniforms for live golf this season. As they really are now really going all in with the team aspect of live golf. So, the Fireballs will wear the Fireballs outfit and Majestics and all that kind of stuff. So, that's why they've lost all of their clothing contracts. So maybe Cobra apparently have come out and said that they're currently renegotiating with Bryson. They have removed him off their website, by the way. But maybe the contract is having to be renegotiated to take out the clothing contract and make it just a club contract. And maybe just why that's happening, he thought he would go and give the TaylorMade driver a go. It obviously didn't go very well because he shot 7 over and missed the cut by an absolute country mile. But, if that was the case, I don't think I'd be very happy if I was Cobra renegotiating a contract to bring him back on board, and then he goes out and uses a TaylorMade stealth driver. I mean, what do you think? Do you think Bryson's finished with Cobra? Does he want to have an open source bag where he can just choose what he wants to play? He doesn't want to be contracted. I mean, interestingly, Justin Rose won the at&t at Pebble Beach using Cobra irons, but he's not a Cobra staff player, but it's still a great thing for Cobra, for them. Unfortunately, they can't go and shout about it, but he was still using Cobra irons when he won at Pebble Beach. But, they've not got many other players left. Gary Woodland is one of their staff players. I mean, Gary Woodland's a good player, but he's not a star. Bryson DeChambeau is a star. He's okay. He's, with his injuries and stuff, he's gone through a little bit of a rough patch, but he's still a big name in golf. And I think that, him separating from Cobra is quite an interesting development. Richard Cameron, thanks for joining the show. Surprised me because I believe Bryson and Ricky had some input into the new Aerojet driver. That's absolutely right, Richard. That is absolutely spot on. Bryson was spouting when they released the the LTD series, and he started using that. He was saying that this is good, but wait till you see the next driver that's in development, because him and the long drive guys had all been involved in it. And that is the Aerojet driver. And, all of a sudden, he's not part of it. He's gone. So, do these manufacturers not want to be associated with live golf whatsoever? It's been quite interesting as well that, quite a lot of these companies have started to actually move towards getting YouTube stars as their brand ambassadors. Does that get them a lot more exposure and a lot cheaper, I would imagine, than having a superstar golfer? Maybe Cobra are going to go down that route. I'm available. Give me a call anytime. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Bryson. Is he going to get back to his best? I can see here that Carl he says he's done. I'm not sure whether he's done, Carl, but he's certainly got to fight his way back again. Got to get fit and healthy first, hasn't he? So that's the Saudi International. Great win for Adrian Ansah. Some great performances in there. Cameron Young, let's see whether he's going to live. Obviously had a great week, played great, finished second. The young Thai player played well, and let's see whether Smith, Mickelson, Bryson, Bubba are going to be playing any better when the first live event tees off in little under 3 weeks' time. And while we're on live, Greg Norman's been coming out the woodwork because he's been very quiet, hasn't he, for quite a long time. He definitely seemed to take a backward step towards the end of the live golf season, and then he's been very quiet over the close season. But all of a sudden he's come out and said that he would be, all up for a PGA Tour v Live Golf Ryder Cup competition. He wants it to happen. He says it'll be the Super Bowl of golf. I think he's right. I think it will be the Super Bowl of golf. I can't see it happening, and do you know why? It's a no-win situation for the PGA Tour. There's no situation in that match that they win. Obviously, they would probably win, but it's not guaranteed. Live Golf could put out a strong team of experienced players, and would definitely, I think, a Live Golf team. Get in the comments and tell me whether you agree with this. I think a Live Golf team is stronger than an international President's Cup team. Do you think I'm right? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I think it is. I think it is, especially if they're all on form. If all those big names are on form, and that's a little bit suspect at the moment. But if you had your Cam Smiths, your Brooks Koepkas, your Dustin Johnsons, your Bryson DeChambeaus, Ian Poulter, we know what he's like when he gets in a match play situation. If they were all on form, they would give a PGA Tour team a great game. But there's a no-win situation for the PGA Tour team, because everyone would expect the PGA Tour team to win, because they've still got by far the strongest players on their tour. Fact. So they would be expected to win. Live Golf have got nothing to lose, because if they didn't win, they could just say, well, of course, the PGA Tour are the favourites, and they've got the much stronger depth of field to choose from. So there's just a no-win for the PGA Tour. So I can't see it happening, and it's Greg Norman kind of stoking the fire a little bit again, and because he knows that there's a big portion of the public out there that would like it to happen. So the fact that he's come out and said that he wants it to happen, he's just trying to gain a little bit of favour, I think, by saying that he's up for it, and then making the PGA Tour look like the bad guys because they're not going to play game and they're not going to do it. So good old Greg, he knows how to stoke the fire, doesn't he? There would certainly be a lot of majors on the Live team. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of major champions on the Live team. There's a lot of them haven't won a major for a long time, but yeah, there is. There's a lot of experience in what would be that Live Golf team, and that counts for a lot in match play. Don't get me wrong, I still think the PGA Tour team would be the favourites and the strongest, but I do think that the Live team would be able to give them a game. Absolutely, 100%. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So, onto the Swilcan Bridge at St Andrews. So, I've got a picture here. So, this has caused a lot of problems. So, this is basically on the left-hand side here is what the problem is. It's the sheer amount of traffic that goes, St Andrews has got to be one of the most played golf courses in the world. The amount of rounds of golf on that in a year is off the charts. And also, you don't need to be playing a round of golf to walk across the Swilcan Bridge and have your picture taken. You can just walk on from the side. There's nothing to stop you from doing it. No one will tell you off for doing it, and it happens a lot. And that's the reason why they did this big circular patio. At first, I was like, well, why did they not just do a continuation of the path with the stone? So people would go onto the stone bit and it wouldn't wear the grass away to the side. And it would look nice because it'd just be a continuation of the bridge. But apparently, where that circular bit is where everyone stands to take the photograph. And that's another reason why it gets worn down so much. So they did the big circle. So the person who takes the photograph off to the side would also be stood on the stone and wouldn't be damaging the grass. But there's been an absolute outcry against it, and I've got to say, I think it looks absolutely ridiculous. I just think St Andrews, the R&A, the St Andrews Trust, they were all involved in this decision, and they don't get things wrong very often, but they got this wrong. Now, fortunately, again, because this is a live podcast, only late on today was it actually shown that they've actually dug it all up. They've gone and they've took it away. So it'll be interesting to see what they do as plan B, as it were. Now, where I live in the UK, I'm very close to a lot of the most iconic and best links golf courses in the world. Royal Birkdale is just down the road. Royal Liverpool, where the Open Championship is this year, is only about 40 miles away. And Royal Lytham is pretty much the same distance if I head north as well. And there's been a big design change on those courses where they're now putting in these big, wide grass paths. And because they're grass paths, and obviously, Royal Birkdale, Royal Lytham and Royal Liverpool, they get a hell of a lot of traffic as well with tourists and people coming to play those courses in the summer. So a grass path was always never really a good idea because there's going to be so many people walking down them, the grass gets worn away and it starts to look like a bit of an eyesore. But actually what they've done is there's this new product, which is it's 50% artificial grass with gaps for real grass to grow through alongside it. Quite similar to what's been used on a lot of the football pitches or soccer pitches. That's why the football pitches are always in pristine condition these days, because they're 50% synthetic grass and 50% normal grass. So I don't understand why they just don't use that. Maybe they will, because that would seem to, it's gonna make it still look nice. It's still gonna look like grass, but it shouldn't get worn away as easily because there's going to be 50% synthetic grass in there. So, what did you think of it? I saw a hilarious picture. I should have got it actually to show where someone had put like the Manelian falcon down as if it had landed on it, and it looked exactly the same, which was quite funny. But I think they've done the right thing. They've done the right thing by tearing it all up, and I think they won't make the same mistake again. Whatever they do now, I'm sure it'll look great, and I think that synthetic grass will be a great solution for it as well. So on to PXG. So again, I only saw this today, so it's sort of very, very quick current news, and PXG have launched a new golf ball called the Extreme. It's a premium golf ball. They say that it's going to go right up there against the Pro V1. I have some of these on the way, so I am going to be doing some content about these very, very quickly. I'm very interested to see what they're like. I use PXG irons. I absolutely love them. I think personally, I think they're the best irons on the market. I'm not as enamored with their hybrids and woods and drivers, but I think their irons are absolutely fantastic. And I'm very interested to see what this golf ball is going to be like. It's got all the buzz lines on it. It's the longest golf ball, and it's got the best feel, and it stops on a sixpence, and all that stuff that they all say. But I'll be interested to see just how good it is. I'm sure we're going to have Bob Parsons, saying "kaboom, baby," or something along those lines on an advert about it. But yeah, interesting that PXG have decided to move into the golf ball market. They all end up doing it eventually. I actually last year used the Bridgestone ball, the BXS, which was used by Tiger. Thought it was a fantastic golf ball, and over here in the UK, considerably cheaper than a Pro V1, like half the price. And I didn't see any discernible difference in performance. So it'll be interesting to see whether the PXG golf ball is the same. As soon as they arrive, I'm going to do an unboxing straight away. I'm not going to open up the cardboard box. I'm just going to leave it, and I'll open it on a video and then just see what the packaging is like. Because when you get the last set of PXG irons I got were actually brand new ones, and the packaging was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it was an experience opening up that box. It was really, really classy and really, really well done. So I'm interested to see what the golf ball's like. So Mason, very interesting. Not too many smaller companies are doing golf balls. Yeah, I mean PXG I suppose they are a small company, aren't they? They've not been going that long. And if they're as good as the clubs, then they'll do great. I agree. If the golf ball's as good as their irons, then it'll be fantastic. And Mason saying that he's played the Bridgestone ball this year as well. It's great, isn't it? It's a great golf ball. Chad as well. I love the BXS. I'm switching for that for this year from the Pro V1X. I think, and I think this is with golf equipment across the board now. Again, let me know in the comments. I think almost the glass ceiling of performance has been reached now. You know, I'm getting a little bit fed up of a new driver coming out and saying this is the longest, straightest, best driver we've ever produced. And then you get all these YouTubers, of which this is the reason why I'm not interested in doing it. And they say, yeah, it's a great driver, it's nice, but it just performs exactly the same as last year's model and the model before that. You know, and I think with golf balls, it's pretty much the same. The Pro V1 for a long time was like definitely the standout best golf ball, and everything else was here. But the Pro V1 couldn't get any better, and all the others have just gradually got better. And now you've got a load of golf balls. You know, the Chrome Soft, the Callaway Chrome Soft is great. The TP5 by TaylorMade is a great golf ball. The Bridgestone's great. I've got no doubt that the PXG is going to be great as well. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of like I look to see what I can get the best deal on. And almost all last year, there was an amazing deal on the Bridgestone. So I just bought like about 5 dozen of them and just used them for the whole season. Happily can say I've still got some left. Didn't lose them all. And it's a great golf ball. So, you know, but if it's not, it wasn't cheap, by the way. It was about the same price as Pro V1s. I think it was about £45 for a dozen of these PXGs. You expect, on a launch day, obviously you expect to pay full price for them. Whether they'll hold their price or whether they'll come down in price, I don't know. But if it's good, then I'll quite happily use it. I quite like the idea of using PXG irons and using a PXG golf ball. I do like to be a little bit different, but I don't do it for being different sake. I do it because actually it's great equipment. So let's see what the golf ball's like. But I think it's interesting that PXG have decided to go down that route. You know, they've also gone down the route of bringing out some cheaper golf clubs as well, because they were always extremely expensive. I've got the Generation 3s. They're absolutely awesome irons, but I bought them just after the Generation 4s came out and they slashed the price down. You know, I'm not paying $3,500, $4,000 for a pair for a set of Generation 4s, no matter how good I think they are. But, you know, I think it was about £1,050 for 5.2 pitching wedge for the Gen 3s, which was a great price, and they're great golf clubs. I'm really impressed with PXG. So let's see what the golf ball's like. Chad says, spot on. The efficiency rating is still 1.5 unless that changes. I think we're at the limit. Yeah, I think we're right. I think unless the USGA and REA do some rule changes, I think equipment's just going to stay exactly where it is. So, you know, I've been using the Ping 425 Max driver. It's not the longest driver. When I went to try some drivers out on a simulator, it wasn't the longest as some of the others I was hitting, but it was certainly the most forgiving. And it was like 8 yards average distance shorter than the other ones. 8 yards is not going to make any difference to my golf game, but being in the fairway that little bit more often is definitely going to make a difference. So that's why I went with it. And they brought out the G430, and it also looks like a fantastic club. All the reviews seem to be saying that, again, it's not the longest, but it's incredibly forgiving. But I just don't see the point in changing my driver to have the latest thing when it's going to do exactly what my current driver is going to do. So, Mason, I like how the direct-to-consumer brands are getting a lot of play. I'm currently using sub-70 irons now. Yeah, it's the downside to the direct-to-consumer, and PXG are definitely starting to address that in the UK now. They have now got actually quite a lot of fitting centres where you can go and try them out before you buy them. Before, there wasn't much opportunity to do that, and I think it was holding them back a bit. They've also got a production facility in the UK now as well, so the turnaround on your orders a lot quicker. These are all things that are just, you know, that a brand needs to do. I work in the cycling market. I look after cycling brands nationally. That's my job. So I'm doing exactly that thing, but in the cycling as a sport rather than doing it in the golf. But the same rules apply, and these are things that you're always trying to put in place to make sure that the brand can be really efficient in its service and, you know, be good on price point as well. These are, you know, just like the building blocks of, you know, building a brand and making it aspirational and also making it, you know, affordable as well. People feel like they're getting a great product for them for the price. Tacoma is a brand I would like to try. Beautiful irons. I've never heard of it. Sorry, Chad. I'll have to take a look at that. Is it like a Miura type sort of thing? You know, sort of like one of those really high-end Japanese brands that just make beautiful-looking golf clubs. Richard Cameron, don't understand why the G430, they didn't put a carbon top on, given they stuck carbon on the G40 LST. That would have set it a bit apart from the G425. Yeah, it did seem a bit of a strange thing to do that. Why put it on the LST and not put it on the Max? And it does definitely look better, doesn't it, Richard, for sure. I think the only thing I can think of that would possibly make me go and get the 430 is the sound. I've got used to the sound on the G42 Max now, but it does make a hideously loud, tingy sound when you hit it. But as long as I keep looking up and seeing the golf ball going pretty much in the direction I want it to do most of the time, I've been willing to put up with it. Apparently, the G430, the sound of it is a lot better. And no doubt, I'm purposely not going to try it because I know if I try it, I'll end up bloody buying the thing when really I really don't need to. So, Tacoma is from Denmark. Interesting. I'll have to have a look at that, Chad. Yeah, I've not come across that brand at all. I will take a look. Denmark's a strange company for a golf brand to come from. That's not exactly a hotbed of golf equipment. So yeah, I'll as soon as the PXG golf ball arrives, I'll come in here and do a video. It's going to be a recorded video. I won't do a live video, so I'll post that up on the channel, and then let you know what my first impressions were. So, lastly, on this first episode of the Golf Week that was, is that at the very end of today, Live Golf launched their 12 teams for this coming season. I think what we're going to see now, the whole thing with Live is they're all about creating a buzz, and I've got to say they're pretty good at doing it. So they never bring out a load of information in one time. They just they gather a load of good stuff, and then they just drip feed it steadily over a period of time. So it just appears like there's just this constant stream of news coming for Live Golf. So I'm pretty sure that, with them announcing the schedule last week, announcing the teams this week, we're going to start to see some player announcements, which, is going to be really interesting. I've got no idea whether they've got some big names up their sleeve or the silence is because they're just really struggling and they actually haven't got anyone at all. They've got Mito Pereira and no one else. It's going to be interesting to see. But I do think now, as their first tournament is getting nearer on February the 24th, I think it is, we're going to see a steady stream of media releases from Live Golf. Bill Ryan, Live Circus Joke. Bill, I get it. Some people, just don't like it, don't like the fact that it's not traditional, but that's the whole point of Live Golf. It's if it wasn't doing something different, it wouldn't be probably worth doing, because if they went up against the PGA Tour doing the same thing, they ain't going to win. Not a chance, because the PGA Tour has just got all the history, all the tournaments, all the players. To try and make themselves stand out, they've got to do something different. And some people like you, Bill, think it's a circus. Totally get why you would think that, because it's so different to a normal, what we know as a normal golf tournament. But, I'm keeping an open mind. I'm willing to give it a try. I watched all of the events last year because I was just curious to see what they were going to be like. And I have to say, the product was a lot better than I was expecting. It's still got quite a long way to go, but I think there's an embryo of something there that could end up working with a few tweaks here and there, because it's definitely not all there right now. It'd be interesting to see in their first full season. And also, we've got to keep in perspective here. You know, there's a lot of people who are wanting to do this apples for apples comparison between the PGA Tour and the Live Tour. And I totally get why that, because it's become very tribal. You know, it seems to be that you've got to be on one side or the other. And people want to make a comparison. But, you know, no matter what side of the divide you're on here, and obviously I would say me and Bill are on separate sides of this, because I've got an open mind to it and I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to watch it. Bill thinks it's a circus and he's not going to watch it, and that's absolutely fine. But I do think even Bill would agree that an apples for apples comparison is not fair, because you've got this one here, which has got incredible history that's been built up over 70 years. It's got amazing tournaments. It's got amazing players because of all those things that we've talked about. And it's just it's an incredible product. The PGA Tour is fantastic. I love watching the PGA Tour. The Waste Management starting on Thursday. I can't wait, you know, for them to get on that par 3. It's going to be awesome. And that field that they've got for this first elevated event is amazing. And I can't wait to watch it. But I'm going to watch Live Golf as well on the 24th, and because I'm interested to see what that's going to do. It's golf. It's just different golf. You know, that's what it is. But you can't make an apples for apples comparison, because, you know, this one's been going for 70 years and has built up all that history, and, you know, it's all this stuff's become iconic and it's fantastic. Live Golf has been going. It's next event is its 9th event as a tour. It's not even done a full season yet. I don't think you can judge Live really until probably the end of 2024. Some people think that by the end of 2024, the Saudis will have pulled out and it'll be no more. And that may well be what happens. But, you know, the truth is none of us really know. And until it all shakes out and we see what happens, you know, I'm going to just watch both of them and just see where it all kind of, how it all kind of plays out. Chad, I love the team idea, but I want to see it with a cut where every team member has to make the cut for the team to make the cut. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Like I said in the last podcast, where Alan Shipnuck had announced that, you know, an OGWR official World Golf Ranking Points board member had told him that they are going to be awarding Live Golf points around April. So for that to happen, as Alan Shipnuck said, this is not me, this is one of the biggest sports journalists in the world who's definitely got the sources, and he wouldn't have come out and said this unless there was something, you know, substantial to it. So, you know, you've got to say that there's probably a chance that this is going to happen based on the fact that he's gone public with it. But, you know, if they're going to announce it in April, then there's going to have to have been some concessions on both sides, for sure. You know, so the official World Golf Ranking Points has definitely had to do a concession on the fact that their criteria says that a tour has to be going for 3 years before it can get points. If they're going to give them points in April, that's obviously something that they've said, okay, that can be put to the side. But they won't be making concessions on this side without Live Golf having to make some concessions here as well. And maybe one of those concessions is that they have to go to 72 holes and have some kind of cut, or they have to go to 72 holes and they have to have more of a qualifying system from the Asian Tour, so more people get promoted on and more people get promoted off. We just don't know. But I think a lot more people would be happier with Live Golf if there was some kind of more qualifying criteria to earn your way onto the tour, rather than it being seen as invitation only and jobs for the boys kind of thing. I mean, do you agree with that? Would you be more open to Live Golf? Bill, you obviously are very much against it. Tell me, would you be more open to it if there was a qualifying criteria where, say, 10 players from the Asian Tour got promoted onto the Live Tour and the bottom 10 players on the order merit on the Live Tour dropped off? So there was a definite, you know, meritocracy is what they always talk about, isn't it? You know, you can earn your way onto that tour. You can earn your way on there and start to try and win one of those tournaments and change your life and win $4 or $5 million. Would that make a difference? I think it would. Whether Live Golf are going to do it or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I think you'll find that they will have definitely made a change to their system and their criteria in order to get official world golf ranking points. Bill, here we go. 4 rounds and a cut is a must. They have nothing to lose. Yeah, I think the team competition makes a cut difficult, doesn't it? Because what if all your team members miss the cut? I don't know. It needs thinking through a little bit. But it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see whether, you know, what they've had to do to convince OWGR to give them the points. For me, I would much prefer to see a more of a qualifying system to earn your way onto Live Golf than them have a cut. If they came out and said, okay, we're going to 72 holes, there's still not going to be a cut, but there's going to be now, you know, a real strong pathway to earn your way onto the Live Tour. I think that would be a great step forward for Live Golf. What's not a step forward is the name Range Goats. What the hell? Apparently Bubba Watson said that his kids came up with this name. He should know better. What a dreadful name. I never thought we could get worse than the Niblets, but we have. We've hit a new low with the Range Goats. I don't know what to say, to be honest. The other new one is that Punch, the Aussie team, has become Ripper. Now, I actually think that's a great name because I don't know whether everyone knows that is just such a common slang word in Australia. It's a Ripper, mate. That's a great name. I actually like that one. That's a great name for them, for the Aussie team. But Range Goats. I mean, for me, going through them here, so we've now got the 4 aces, the Cleeks, the Crushers, the Fireballs, the High Flyers, the Ironheads, Majestics, Smash, Stinger, Torque, Ripper, and Range Goats. For me, half of the names are good and half of them are terrible. I've got no problem with 4 aces, Crushers, Fireballs, Majestics, Stinger, Ripper. Even Ironheads isn't too bad, but Smash, Torque, Range Goats, Cleeks, Niblets. It was the Niblets before, wasn't it? They've gone to the Range Goats. Yeah, I mean, you know, this was their chance to get all of their names, you know, really sorted out and get 12 amazing names, and they've kind of, they've missed the boat on that. I don't know why or how Bubba got Range Goats put through that board meeting. They must have all been having a few drinks that night, I think. But we'll all have to wait and see. But I do think that the team element in Live Golf, it's been widely ridiculed, but I think we're going to see more of the structure of it this year. You know, last year there was players coming off one team and then playing on another, and it was like, well, who's he playing for now, and what's going on here? And it was just a bit of a mess, and it was just confusing. This year they're saying that all of their teams are going to be locked in. There's going to be no changes throughout the season. I think it's going to make it a lot easier to follow. They're going to have team uniforms on, so we're going to be able to, once we get familiar with that, we're going to be easily able to recognise, a player from that team when he's on the coverage. I think the team element's going to come together and be just a little bit more cohesive this year on Live Golf. And we've not got long before it starts, but before that, we've got the waste management this week, which is just going to be incredible. And that's obviously going to be one of the subjects on next week's, the golf week that was, next Tuesday night. So I'm going to wrap it up there. That's the first live golf week that was podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed doing it. We've got through a lot there. Some really good stuff, Justin Rose's win, fantastic. Daniel Gavins, double. When was the last time someone double bogeyed the last to win a tournament? Saudi International, hard to judge really because no one could watch it. Greg Norman stirring the cauldron again. Bryson dropped by Cobra. It'd be interesting to see whether he signs a deal with someone else or he's just going to use whatever equipment he wants. The Swilcan bridge, looks like they're going to put that right. PXG golf ball, I'll have something for you on that straight away. And the Live Golf teams, all sorted for the start of this season. Okay, thank you very much. There's been loads of comments tonight. I really look forward to doing these on a regular basis. Thank you so much to everyone for getting involved. I love the fact that we're not all agreeing on stuff. I love the fact that Bill's come on and he's put his point across. That is the whole point of this. The whole point is that you take part. That's why I do them live. You're part of the show. You shape what we're going to talk about. And I just love the fact that, you know, I don't want you to come on and I don't want everyone to agree with me, and we're not going to agree all the time. But we can get in the live comments and we can discuss it and then just see where everyone thinks we all are. Okay, great stuff. I look forward to the next one. I hope you enjoy any golf that you're going to play this week. I have got a video going published tomorrow, which is all about the match, which everyone's been waiting for. So that's an opportunity for me to come and visit your golf course and have a match with you and film it and put it up and be part of the series called The Match. So that's going live tomorrow. Please let me know if anyone's interested in that and we'll see what we can do. Okay, great stuff. Thanks. And I'll see you in the next video.